is a common thread running through a class. And a friend of mine, Karen Monaco, she says that when you think of themes, think of a message you want to offer up to your classes. And in this way, when you theme a class, it's a way of delivering a really powerful message. Because during class, your clients are not only open and flexing in the muscles, but they're open in their hearts and their minds too. And so this is an opportunity for you to plant seeds of new thoughts and behaviors. Now, this isn't about manipulation. It's really about suggesting different perspectives, allowing people to experiment with what their current or past held thoughts are and have a non-judgmental way on the yoga mat to test those past thoughts and cultures and beliefs and behaviors and possibly implement new ones. So is a theme important? Well, that really depends. If you're starting out on your yoga career, there might be other balls that you're focusing on juggling. And just over time, as you gain more experience and you gain more confidence, theming tends to sneak in on you. I think theming becomes more important as you begin to make your classes more of an experience versus kind of a one-off physical practice. And although when I teach sequencing to my beginner teachers, I usually encourage them to pick something like a pose theme, like hip openers. That's a bit more tangible for them to work with versus a more intangible theme such as nature. So, pantser or planner, what's your style of creating classes? Now, this phrase pantser or planner comes from the writing world, and it is used to describe the type of plotter that an author is. Okay, the plot of the book is the experience, it's the story that's happening, it's the reason for the book. So as an author or a writer, if you're a pantser, that means you write by, quote, the seat of your pants, unquote. If you're a planner, well, that's self-explanatory. The same can be applied to structuring classes, being a pantser or a planner. There are teachers who prefer to stay with a loose flow of classes, allowing whatever comes up and addressing it then. And then there are others who put in a significant amount of time prepping their classes. I tend to fall into both categories. I really like the free flow, the loose flow that can happen. So many of my classes tend to be pantser classes. But if I have a specific topic that I want to get across, a specific theme, then yes, I agree that planning is the more efficient route when you want to theme your classes. What are those quick tips that I want to provide to you? You know, while there are only so many poses, there are infinite possibilities for you to create themes and combine poses to go with those themes. Now, some themes, some overarching themes, they might work for just one class, while another theme might work well for spanning a series. So when we talk about themes and sub-themes, when you have an overarching theme and then you have a series of classes, whatever is the individual topic for that series then becomes the sub-theme. Okay? Now, one of the advantages of when you create a series is it allows you to batch several classes at once. And if you are a planner, this is a big deal. You can batch a month's worth of classes and know that it's taken care of. You don't have to think about it again. You don't have to worry about when you walk in the door. You know, maybe you have to shift and change a couple of poses based on who walks in to the class. But for the most part, you know what your theme and you know what you're wanting to do in each of those classes. Now, when you're creating a series of theme classes, this is a couple of the tips listed here, is when you're doing the series, you want to be sure that there is some continuity so that they all feel like they go together. But you also want each class in the series to be able to stand alone, because not everyone will be able to attend every class. And you don't want a client to walk in, maybe take class 3 out of a series of 4, and they missed important details from class 1 and 2. So you want both continuity, but you want the ability for those classes to stand on their own. The last tip is to not shy away from repetition. Repetition is your friend in a lot of different ways. Your clients need that repetition in order to learn and to integrate. It helps you to chart progress of your clients, especially if you're doing this in a private setting. And when you allow for repetition, don't be afraid to teach that same class for all 4 classes that you might teach in that 1 week. Your clients aren't going to be bored. Teachers tend to be the ones who get bored and burned out from the repetition, not the clients. So don't be afraid to use the same theme a few times, or to use the same class a few times. The first one is what I'm calling pose themes or physical themes. And this is what I recommend to my new teachers coming through training, is when they are putting their first classes together, pick a theme, pick a pose theme, something like forward bends, back bends, twists, balances, hip openers, chest openers, inversions. I'm going to say the default theme that every new teacher uses is hip openers. Most of us have all attended a yoga class with hip openers, and so we're the most familiar with this themed class. Plus, when we focus on the physical, it's one of the simpler themes that we can bring in to our classes. Plus physical, it's a lot more tangible than something like nature. The next one, I just went to my bookshelf and I looked at some of my favorite books that are there, what was inspirational to me, something that I thought that would work as both a one-off or even as a series of classes. So some of the books on my shelf: Four Agreements, Artist's Way, Bhagavad Gita, The Sutras, Power of Now. I know a couple of others on here were recommended, like Big Magic and Essentialism. That's a tough one to say. Now, I want to touch on Four Agreements really quickly, because it is a perfect example of a main theme, an overarching theme, and then a sub-theme. So in the Four Agreements book, we have 4 individual agreements. So the overarching theme can be the Four Agreements, the book by Don Miguel Ruiz. And then the individual or the sub-theme takes each of those agreements individually. So it could be a 4-week series on the 4 agreements, with class 1 being over be impeccable with your word. Class 2 would be focused on the theme of don't take anything personally. The third class would be don't make assumptions, and the fourth would be do your best. So the 4 agreements is a great example of overarching theme with a sub-theme, and then how those sub-themes become our series of classes. All right, next up on the list, we have nature: forest, mountain, oceans, deserts. And then we have weather: rain, snow, wind. We have the seasons: winter, spring, summer, fall. We have the elements: fire, wood, water, metal. Other kind of nature things: rainbows and cycles of life. My favorite topics to use for theming is the 8 limbs. And really, if you took all of these and broke them down, especially the yamas and the niyamas, because you've got 10 by themselves right there. I mean, you could easily create several months worth of classes using the 8 limbs. And the second reason that I really love using the 8 limbs as a theme is because it's a clever way of introducing basic philosophy into your classes. So you have your diehards who are coming in and taking their yoga pose classes all the time, but they might not stop and take a workshop over basic philosophy. And as a teacher, we know that's important. And so again, this is a way of bringing in that philosophy to students who might not otherwise learn about it.